Mikaela Shiffrin just made history. 100 World Cup wins, a feat no alpine skier has ever achieved. With the world watching and the pressure at its peak, she delivered a flawless run, then broke down in tears as the moment sank in. How do you even put into words witnessing pure greatness?
Mikaela Shiffrin, it is 100, untouchable, unreachable, and I think unrepeatable.
Mikaela Shiffrin just did something that no alpine skier in history has ever done. She won her 100th World Cup race. That number alone is mind-blowing, but when you break it down, it becomes even more legendary. No one in alpine skiing, man or woman, has ever reached this milestone. That's how rare and extraordinary this achievement is. It cements Shiffrin's status as the greatest skier of all time.
Unreachable, and I think unrepeatable. Perfect this thing she calls ski racing, and she has.
To put this into perspective, only a handful of winter sports athletes across different disciplines have even crossed the 100-win mark. Cross-country skiing legend Marit Bjørgen racked up 114 wins in her career, making her the most dominant in her sport. Freestyle skier Connie Kissling hit 106 victories, and telemark skier Amelie Wenger-Reymond leads with an unbelievable 164 wins. These are names that define excellence in winter sports. But in alpine skiing, Shiffrin stands alone. No one else has done what she has just accomplished.
To the true GOAT of skiing, Mikaela Shiffrin, cementing her place in history over the weekend, a monumental 100th career World Cup win.
And she didn't just hit 100 wins, she also tied another massive record. With her victory in Sestriere, Shiffrin secured her 155th career podium, putting her level with Ingemar Stenmark, the Swedish great who dominated the sport in the 1970s and 80s. Stenmark was considered untouchable for decades, yet here we are in 2025, and Shiffrin has matched his legendary podium tally. At just 29 years old, she's got plenty of racing left, meaning she will almost certainly set a new record very soon. What makes this even more remarkable is how she won. The Sestriere slalom was a masterclass in clutch performance. After missing the giant slalom final the day before, the pressure on her was intense. She had to deliver on one of the biggest days of her career, and she did exactly that. Shiffrin set the fastest time in the first run, which meant she would go last in the final round. That position is both an advantage and a test of nerves. With thousands of fans watching and the weight of history on her shoulders, she was the last skier standing between victory and disappointment. She didn't just hold on, she dominated. Her final run was near perfect, full of speed, precision, and total control.
Event on Sunday, the 100th victory was in a slalom, and that's always come a little bit more naturally to me, and I'm hoping that...
A historic moment like this doesn't come without challenges, and for Mikaela Shiffrin, the road to her 100th victory was anything but smooth. Just 2 months ago, she suffered a devastating crash at Killington that left her with a serious abdominal puncture wound. It was the kind of injury that could have ended her season, or worse, derailed her career. At first, no one knew just how bad it was. But as the weeks went by, it became clear that she was facing not only physical recovery, but also a battle within her mind. For an athlete as dominant as Shiffrin, returning to competition after an injury like that isn't just about healing. It's about regaining confidence, rebuilding strength, and silencing the doubts. And the doubts were there. In her own words, she admitted to struggling with PTSD after the crash. It wasn't just about getting back on skis, it was about trusting herself again. She skipped the World Championships in Saalbach, something that would have been unthinkable in previous years. That decision alone showed just how much the crash had affected her. She wasn't racing like herself, and people started wondering if she would ever return to her usual dominant form. Then came the giant slalom event in Sestriere, where she failed to qualify for the second run. That was another huge blow. For the first time since 2012, she recorded a DNQ, did not qualify. This was Mikaela Shiffrin, the most dominant skier of her generation, missing out on a final. It was something that hadn't happened in over a decade. The whispers grew louder. Was she still the same skier? Would she ever return to the top? Winning 100 World Cup races is one thing. Winning the 100th when the whole world is watching is another level of pressure entirely. Everyone knew she was on the verge of this historic milestone. Fans, commentators, even her fellow competitors. It was all anyone could talk about. There was no escaping it. The pressure was already sky high, but then came the disappointment of the giant slalom event the day before. That only made things worse. If Shiffrin had qualified and raced well in the GS, she might have entered the slalom feeling more relaxed. Instead, she had to shake off the frustration of failing to make the final and refocus on an even bigger challenge. There was no room for error in the slalom. She had to be perfect. And she wasn't just racing against history. She was up against the fierce competition. Zrinka Ljudic of Croatia was on fire this season, looking for her 4th win. Then there was Paula Moltson, Shiffrin's own US teammate, who was right behind her. One mistake, one hesitation, and she could have easily lost to either of them. But when the moment was at its biggest, Shiffrin did what only legends do. She delivered. Mikaela Shiffrin is more than just a record-breaking skier. She's changing the sport in ways that go far beyond what happens on the slopes. Her success has redefined what's possible in alpine skiing, but what makes her truly special is how she's using her platform to inspire and uplift others. Winning races is one thing, but leaving behind a legacy that impacts future generations is something entirely different. That's exactly what she's doing. One of the most important ways she's making a difference is through her work with the Cher Winter Foundation. Skiing has always been a sport that requires access to mountains, equipment, and training, which means that many kids never get the chance to even try it. Mikaela wants to change that. She has partnered with Cher Winter to help introduce skiing to children who might never have had the opportunity otherwise. By supporting programs that provide equipment, lessons, and access to the slopes, she's making sure that the next generation of skiers isn't limited by where they come from. She understands what the sport has given her, and she wants others to experience that same joy. For her, skiing isn't just about competing. It's about the feeling of carving through fresh snow, the thrill of a perfect run, and the sense of freedom that comes with being on the mountain. That's why she's so passionate about making skiing more accessible. She knows that out of those kids who get their first chance to ski, some will fall in love with the sport and maybe even become the next great champions. But Mikaela's influence doesn't stop there. She's paving the way for young skiers by proving that anything is possible with hard work and dedication. Her career has shattered every expectation, showing young athletes that there are no limits to what they can achieve. She started winning World Cup races as a teenager and has continued to dominate year after year. Her records are already untouchable, but her greatest impact might not even be the numbers she puts up. It's the belief she instills in those who look up to her. Mikaela Shiffrin just made history, but she isn't done yet. The question isn't whether she'll break more records. It's how many more she can set. With the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Olympics on the horizon, she has even bigger goals ahead. She's already the most successful alpine skier of all time, but she still has plenty of races left in her career. Could she reach 110 wins? 120? The way she's going, nothing seems impossible.
Injury this season, I was actually home, and I had an injury last season too, to my ankle and my knee that kept me out for a couple months. So this season,
She has already proven that she can come back from injuries, setbacks, and pressure. Just 2 months ago, she was recovering from a serious crash, dealing with both physical pain and the mental challenges that followed. People wondered if she would ever be the same again. She answered that question in the best way possible, by winning her 100th race and reminding the world that she's still at the top of her game. That kind of resilience is what separates good athletes from legends. What makes her continued dominance even more likely is her unmatched work ethic and mindset. She isn't just talented, she's one of the hardest working skiers in history. While many athletes slow down after reaching big milestones, Mikaela has always been the kind of competitor who pushes for more. She doesn't race just for records. She races because she loves the sport and because she always wants to improve. That's why it's hard to imagine her stopping anytime soon. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.